The oceans are some of the most unexplored regions on our planet. Every year, scientists and researchers pull up new artifacts from the depths, giving us an insight into our distant past. However, it's the eyewitness accounts of mysterious creatures that interest many people. These stories have led some to believe that there may be giant undiscovered species swimming in the depths, and that every so often, some manage to get a glimpse of them. One Navy officer described what they encountered while being close to the region of Antarctica. They said the following: "I am a retired U.S. Navy officer. During one operation, me and fellow officers encountered a sea creature that none of us were familiar with. Spending a lot of my life on the ocean, I was used to seeing all kinds of wildlife. However, this thing was different. The U.S. has a strong presence in Antarctica, and on a few occasions I was lucky enough to visit this incredible place, and it was also here that the encounter happened. During the winter months, Antarctica is dark, and it was during one of these days that a fellow officer noticed some disturbance in the water. As we got light on the object in order to try and get a visual, we saw the outline of a large creature. It was a gray-whitish color, but the strangest thing is that it had these long arms. We couldn't identify what this animal was. The second time it came to the surface, we got a better look. The creature had what appeared to be a whale's body, but seemed to have possessed large arms and a small head. After the brief encounter, we never saw the creature again, and to this day I still have no idea what it was I saw." End quote. Interestingly, stories like this have been repeated over the years, with other people like sailors saying they've encountered a similar-looking creature. Cryptid experts now call this creature the Ningen. Some of the first accounts of the creature can be traced back to Japanese folklore, with the name Ningen being the Japanese translation of human. This sea monster is rumored to be a creature resembling a human fish and a mermaid. At an alleged 20 to 30 meters long, the Ningen is said to be the size of a whale, and is usually very quiet when it's in the water, not making much of a disturbance and even in some cases being difficult to spot. According to the sailors aboard Japanese research vessels, they can sometimes be seen when venturing close to the colder regions of our planet. The physical descriptions of the Ningen remain relatively consistent. Pale white in color, a human figure with a torso, appendages but then a tail resembling that of a mermaid. A peculiar feature of the Ningen is the description of its facial features, or rather the features it appears to be missing. The minimal features of a Ningen appear to be a narrow slit for a mouth, and two large eyes, but no nose are ever apparent in distinctive features in its face. Some people have theorized this odd description is one matching an albino ray, and maybe what sailors concluded was a sea monster in reality was a species of albino ray that's not yet been discovered. Again, others have said that sailors and others are misidentifying these creatures as albino whales. However, the vivid pictures painted by those who have encountered the creatures firsthand are notably different from the knowledge we have of albino rays, leading many to quickly dismiss this far more ordinary explanation. The Ningen was first spotted off the coast of Antarctica, in cold icy waters, leading many to believe that this creature has been hiding underneath the ice. In the Arctic, scientists have discovered hydrothermal vents, where life such as yeti crabs have been found, leading to the plausible possibility of a new life form there too, possibly including the Ningen. Adding to the suspicious nature of the bizarre creature, this sea monster is reported to have been seen more often at night during the daytime. The sailors who first reported seeing the Ningen initially thought they saw a submarine, though upon closer inspection it became clear that they were looking at a living, breathing creature. Although the majority of these stories come from the icy continent, others have shared their story of encountering something similar in other locations across the world. This has led some theorists to speculate that these creatures actually inhabit a wide area and aren't just confined to the cold waters of our world. In Sweden, residents have been coming forward and saying that when they're on their boats, they keep seeing strange creatures in the water. They describe them as aquatic creatures, and some individuals have given detailed accounts. One person said that while on their boats, they could see a large white object below the surface. After slowing the boat down to get a better look at the creature in question, it just slowly swam past. Not knowing what these creatures are, many have tried to take photographs. Majority of them are blurry and don't show anything that can be ID'd. These creatures are thought to resemble large humanoids and don't look like any known marine creature. While some videos have emerged showing these creatures, most agree they're fake. However, the eyewitnesses stand by their testimonies and say these strange creatures are attracted to their bones. Over the last few years, Sweden has had its fair share of strange goings-on. UFOs are being reported here constantly, and it's said to be a hotbed for USOs. An unidentified submerged object, or USO, is any object or optical mechanical detection phenomenon of unknown origin, observed underwater that remains unidentified even after thorough investigation. Though most people who see these USOs report flashing lights under the water, some have said they've even seen crafts raise out of the water. Some eyewitnesses say these crafts can enter the water without making any disturbance. However, photos and videos of these crafts are hard to come by. Some believe that the creature responsible for the sightings could be the Ninjin. These creatures are usually encountered in cold regions, but in the last few years reports have come from all over the world. These creatures are said to often get misidentified as whales, and some eyewitnesses have said it's hard to tell the difference unless you're really close. Ninjin sightings seem to occur most frequently at night, making them all the more difficult to photograph. It's been suggested by some that this creature is responsible for the encounters in Sweden. Most of the reports seem to match the Ninjin. However, skeptics believe that eyewitnesses are just seeing whales or other marine life. It seems that until better photographs can be taken, this creature will remain a mystery. So what do you guys make of this mysterious creature? And what do you think people are seeing? Scientists estimate that there are over 5 million species left unclassified on Earth, so it's no wonder that seemingly otherworldly creatures are commonly spotted all over the world. Understandably so, you may not believe in them. Still, there are many creatures spotted by separate eyewitnesses that are hard to explain away. But if we choose to believe in these sightings, how do we know if they're an undiscovered new species or something of a different dimension? The winged humanoids. Reports of winged humanoids have spanned the globe for centuries. They're included in the myths of many cultures. An encounter with one of these flying human-like beings is detailed by the U.S. Air Force record. The report describes a hunting trip of a man identified as Mr. Lamb. This occurred in Nebraska on February 22, 1922. At around 5 a.m., he heard a high-pitched noise coming from above him. He looked up. He noticed something large and dark floating in the sky. When it landed, it started to walk across the snow. This caused Mr. Lamb to realize this thing was alive. This being was described as an 8-foot-tall humanoid creature with wings. Nothing else is known from this encounter, as Mr. Lamb exhausted himself trying to follow the footprints. Winged humanoids have also been spotted near Point Pleasant, West Virginia. One story comes from two young couples. Allegedly, they were driving to the country to see their friends when one of the women spotted something bright, 2 red circles that were glowing in the dark. As the circles got closer to the car, the humanoid figure came into view. They described the creature as 7 feet with wings folded behind its back. Another Point Pleasant resident, salesman Thomas Urey, spotted the figure while driving his car on November 15, 1996. He saw the tall humanoid standing in a field, where it then suddenly unfolded its wings and rose into the sky. He reported the creature started flying above his car, which was going 75 miles per hour. To residents of Point Pleasant and many familiar with the legend, this particular humanoid is known as Mothman. Some believe Mothman is a bad omen. He was allegedly sighted before the Silver Bridge collapse, which killed 46 people near the town. Point Pleasant holds an annual Mothman festival. This recognizes the myth and draws many tourists to the local economy. A similar creature, or possibly the same one, was seen in New Haven, West Virginia. Allegedly, when 18-year-old Connie was driving home from church service, she saw a large 7-foot high at the roadside. It had the characteristic big, bright red eyes. The creature then spread its wings and lifted into the sky. Not too long ago, peaking in 2017, Mothman sightings had seemingly transitioned to Chicago. Lon Stickler tracked sightings on his website. Stickler observed that by the second week of there were almost 30 sightings of a large, flying humanoid in Chicago. Stickler became interested in the Mothman phenomenon when he allegedly encountered the creature as a child in Pennsylvania. The 2017 sightings were the most reports he had ever received in a short time span. Most of them occurred near Lake Michigan. A couple who were walking around North Lakeshore Drive around 9:20 p.m. observed the wings cryptid and flying towards them. Slowly descended in front, no more than 25 feet away. It hovered about 5 feet above the sidewalk with its wings spread open as it peered at the couple with large, bright eyes. Several people on the other side of the street, including a delivery van driver, reacted with shrieks and terrified screams. The creature hovered for 10 seconds, then swiftly pulled its wings into its body, and another sighting occurred in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood, when 2 police officers, a journalist and a group of other witnesses saw a dark, black shadow with wings standing on top of a building. Within one day, similar Mothman sightings occurred in both Melrose Park and River Forest, but these sightings are in no way restricted to American territory. A group of 4 friends were outside walking home from a dance in Kent, the United Kingdom. On November 16, 1963, while walking, they heard a loud cracking sound. When they followed the sound, they saw a large humanoid figure with bat-like wings emerging from the branches. In September 1979 in Russia, a pair of students on a date saw a dark figure slowly flying above the ground. It looked close to a human and was wearing knight-like armor. The man also apparently had a pale halo above him. Eventually, he disappeared into the forest. The popularity of the Mothman and interest in similar sightings has inspired many projects, including the 2002 movie The Mothman Prophecies. Despite the seeming outrageousness of these sightings, there are some theories to explain them. One theory is that Mothman is just a large, crane-like bird. Some believe the sightings are the result of military-conducted experiments that produce hallucinations of these creatures. Others believe the winged humans aren't illusions, but creatures from a different dimension. No matter their cause, at least it seems that only harm they seem to cause is fear. The Ahul cryptid. The Ahul is another winged cryptid, but is closer to bat than human. Its namesake is from a distinct cry. It was first spotted in 1925 by naturalist Dr. Ernest Bartels. He was exploring waterfalls in a mountain in Indonesia when what appeared to be a giant bat flew above his head. The same doctor spotted the creature again in 1927 in West Java. This is when he heard the same cry. The face of the Ahur is described as a mix between a bat and a chimpanzee, with dark eyes. It also has red-skinned wings, gray fur, and large claws on its forearms. Its alleged wingspan is between 18 to 28 feet. Some believe the sightings are actually that of owls, eagles, or other birds of prey. Others believe it's an undiscovered and rare species. The species could be an unfamiliar giant bat, but its description also matches that of a flying primate, even though no other cases of flying primates exist. A third theory suggests the creature is a descendant of the pterosaur, a flying reptile thought to have gone extinct 65 million years ago. The fact that pterosaurs are known to have large forearms and leathery wings adds some support to this theory. However, the creature's credibility and origins remain unknown. The bat squatch is similar to the Ahul, described as a mixture between a bat and the Sasquatch. It was first sighted near Mount St. Helens in Washington state during the 1980s. The bat squatch is said to be 9 feet tall and have yellow eyes, blue fur, sharp teeth, a warp-like muzzle, and leathery, bat-like wings up to 50 feet in length. Some consider the sightings to actually be Mothman sightings. One sighting in April 1994 involved a man named Brian Canfield. Canfield was driving his truck in Pierce County, Washington, when the engine suddenly failed. The bat squatch then landed directly in front of him. The sighting led to newspaper articles that brought popularity to this cryptid, particularly making the bat squatch the cryptid of Washington state. Some connect this sighting to events that occurred 14 years earlier. 203 square miles and 150,000 acres of living forests were vaporized. This was the site of the largest landslide ever recorded, as solid rock hurled down the mountain, burying the land previously seen. Because of this eruption, a blast cloud appeared 15 miles into the stratosphere. Mud and ash rained down, blotting out the sun while lightning and thunder shook the area. Some believe it was during this time out of this dead zone that the bat squatch first appeared. Another sighting was reported in 2009 near Mount Shasta in California. A group of hikers were a witness to a large creature flying out of a cave in a mountain. 2 years later, another sighting of the bat squatch was spotted in a garden. In Butler County, Pennsylvania, an 8-foot-tall bat squatch creature was spotted hunched over the side of the road. The creature was also described as having muscular arms and legs and claw-like arms. The last recorded sighting occurred in April 14, 2014. This was at Archbishop Hoban High School in Ohio. A Spanish class saw the black mass of the alleged bat squatch speed past their window. So what do you make of these mysterious encounters? Perhaps the most influential scientist of the 21st century, Stephen Hawking has undeniably shaped our understanding of modern physics. His 1974 discovery that black holes emit radiation placed him in the spotlight of quantum mechanics and theoretical physics, having made an irrefutable impact upon the field before his death in 2018. This remarkable man achieved great things in his lifetime, and whether you know him, his work truly outlives him. However, with constant developments in physics and technology, he certainly left us warnings regarding the darker side of future scientific breakthroughs that we are yet to see. Without a world government, technology will destroy us. The potential threat of technology is not one that Hawking had ignored. The fantasy that humans may be able to create such powerful devices or other entities is no longer fiction, but rather a not-too-distant reality drawing closer and closer each day. In a 2017 interview with The Times, Hawking made comments that a world government of some description would ensure that we are regulating technology. He expressed a belief that the innate aggression that humans biologically have poses a threat of conflict with technology, and that a world government would theoretically be successful in monitoring that, and so preventing threats of nuclear or biological war. On the other hand, Hawking had considered the possible political implications of a world government in acknowledging the opportunity for corruption and tyranny within this potential system and the possibility that it may create more issues than it solves. The threats and dangers posed to us can come in the form of our own instinctive human aggression, which Hawking credits to Darwin's theory of evolution. Our logic and reason can be overshadowed by innate aggression, initially purposeful in survival but creates a sense of impulsivity that must be regulated. Developments in technology also facilitate the advancement of artificial intelligence or AI that may become too independent from us. AI that may develop enough power to kill or harm us, of course, presents physical danger. Though Hawking suggests that the problem is not if they become evil or malicious, but instead if they become too successful. If an AI has goals, it will, to the best of its ability, achieve them, and so issues arise when the goals of artificial intelligence and ours fail to coordinate. Or, as said by Stephen Hawking himself, superintelligent AI will be extremely good at accomplishing its goals, and if those goals are not aligned with ours, we're in trouble. This cautious attitude regarding artificial intelligence isn't one that Dr. Hawking is alone in holding. Other notable figures within the field, such as Elon Musk, share similar reservations when it comes to the ability of us versus technology, as they view it as a potential risk. The risk of technology outperforming us is an increasingly present one, and not one we can ignore. And perhaps, in a more ideal world, the proposition of a world government would seem like the obvious choice. But with the cruel and corrupt potential it brings, we have to ask, do we think one individual can cope with so much influence? Essays reveal that Hawking predicted a race of superhumans. Superheroes and their villainous counterparts may be what you immediately think of when you hear superhumans. But for the wealthy, a future with genetic modifications leading to a superhuman race is more realistic than you might imagine. Hawking's discussions surrounding this subject have been deemed relatively controversial. DNA editing practices, namely CRISPR-Cas9, exist. This technique allows scientists to edit specific parts of the genome, allowing harmful genes to be removed and genes to be added to. Currently, its primary use is in hospital and medical settings. For children with leukemia, removing the harmful gene presents an option in cases where other treatments have deemed their case incurable. The CRISPR-Cas9 technique is effectively selecting one part of the genome and deleting it. This works by using CRISPR-Cas9, a guide molecule made of RNA known as ribonucleic acid, to guide and target the desired part of the genetic code on the DNA double helix. The CRISPR or the RNA molecule is attached to the Cas9, a bacterial enzyme, essentially creating a pair of molecular scissors to cut the DNA. This means the DNA can be removed or new pieces inserted, making precise genetic editing a reality. Hawking expressed his belief that as this technology becomes more mainstream and widely accessible, those who could afford it would begin to edit the DNA of both themselves and their children. In a series of essays and articles, as well as his book A Brief History of Time, Hawking addresses the potential danger this may have upon society. The impact would divide between those who can and cannot afford gene editing procedures and the subsequent effect upon politics. Professor Hawking within these essays mentions his belief that laws will be implemented in order to control the editing and changing of DNA, but that the desire for prolonged and improved lives will ultimately be too tempting. The editing of genes could ultimately create a divide between unimproved humans and improved humans. The consequent implication here is that those of us who are unimproved would be unable to until we become insignificant or extinct entirely. Hawking states, there will be a race of self-designing beings who are improving at an ever-increasing rate. On the other hand, in addition to the financial barrier, a potential disincentive to undergoing DNA editing procedures are the health risks, potential side effects, or complications whilst having the treatments completed. Would parents object their perfectly healthy children to this possible danger? Would they have the you pass the traits onto their offspring? Dr. Hawking warned us about alien contact. An age-old question that has played on the minds of scientists for centuries is, are we alone in the universe? Whilst it is true that even the least scientific-minded of us would love to know what other life, if any, there is in the universe, Hawking has given us warnings as to the possible consequences of making ourselves known to other life forms, despite us attempting to reveal our location for decades now. Largely, Hawking wants us to gain some perspective as to our relevance. If a civilization billions of years more advanced than us found our societies, then we could be as meaningful to them as bacteria and microorganisms are to us. Their ability to harm us, dismiss us, or purge us of our resources could be a realistic threat that Hawking advised we should keep in mind. For years, in attempting, we have sent signals and messages trying to find other life forms and awaited potential signals from elsewhere. Under Hawking's advice and the Breakthrough Listen project, a shift has been undergone, where scientists are looking for foreign lifeform signals as opposed to sending out our own. The Breakthrough Listen project, funded by the procedure, is scanning the stars closest to the Earth for radio signals. Some movements and interactions that have warranted further investigation include Tabby's star due to its dimming and brightening. While one explanation for this may be an advanced civilization, it is perhaps more plausible to assume a comet swarm is the cause of the apparent flickering of the star. The 2016 documentary Stephen Hawking's Favorite Places sees Hawking explain and explore his favorite places in the universe, in which he speaks about Gliese 832c, a planet 16 light-years away, and how this would be a prime place for the Breakthrough Listen project to scan. Hawking does suggest that even if we do receive signals or messages from other lifeforms, it may be in our best interest to avoid responding at all. Even though Hawking has played a significant role and had a key contribution to the mission attempt to find extraterrestrial life, he is a large critic of the work. We have to ask the question that if we were to find other life forms, what would we do? Would humans respect and leave peace or attempt to colonize and invade? How can we anticipate a positive reaction to others finding human life? The advancement of modern technology and our ever-growing scientific knowledge truly is remarkable and a feat that we should marvel at. Scientists that help us in our discoveries are a testament to all that the human race can achieve. However, we have to heed the warnings great minds give us and remember that fantasizing about the creations we can engineer and knowledge we can gain does not eliminate the danger that these discoveries present. Will the human race form a world government? Will we find alien life? Would we communicate if we do? The possibilities of what science can bring us in the future are near limitless. But how far should we push the boundaries? What do you make of these subjects that Stephen Hawking has warned us about? When the ancient Greek civilization first journeyed to Egypt and laid witness to the ancient cultures, methods of construction, megalithic structures, sprawling cities, and seemingly advanced technologies, along with the civilization's incredible strides in mathematics and philosophy, not only were they completely intrigued by this, but they quickly worked to try to classify what they saw and provided it with the names we know today. When the ancient Greeks came across the large stone, what they presumed to be a lion with the face of a man, reminding the Greeks of the stories of the Sphinx recorded in the struggle of Oedipus. They quickly named the structure of the Sphinx as an ode to their own culture seen in the Egyptian culture. However, outside of this original encounter, nothing else was known surrounding the strange structure. This, in turn, has caused various discoveries to be made about the structure and various theories to be put forward in order to explain the origins of the structure. Is there evidence of water erosion? During the early 1950s, French Egyptologist R. A. Schwalder de Lubitz visited the Great Sphinx enclosure and remarked that there was a substantial amount of water erosion across the structure. Believing that perhaps the structure had been submerged at one point in time and had not been significantly weathered by the wind as previous theories shortly after this claim, Schwal was labeled a mystic and slandered by countless other archaeologists, who believed that Schwal was making up the claim, to appeal to a fringe group of theorists at the time. Despite these personal attacks, alternative Egyptologist and author John Anthony West sought out the opinion of the Associate Professor of Natural Sciences at the College of General Studies at Boston University, a geologist by the name of Robert M. Schott. Back in 1989, Robert M. Schott then spent a significant amount of time investigating the enclosure's geology and came to the conclusion that the main type of weathering that was evident on the Sphinx's enclosure walls were caused by significant amounts of water damage and not that of natural wind and sand degradation previously theorized. Interestingly, Robert Schott also found that the weathering was consistent with blocks found at the valley temples, leading Schott to claim the following statement. Therefore, if the granite facing is covering deeply weathered limestone, the original limestone structures must predate by a considerable degree the granite facing. Obviously, if the limestone cores originating from the Sphinx ditch of the temples predate the granite ashlars, granite facings, and the granite ashlars are attributable to the Khafre of the 4th dynasty, then the Great Sphinx was built prior to the reign of Khafre. Given the fact that the Egyptian government is keen to maintain the history that the ancient Egyptian civilization was responsible for the megalithic structures and not some unknown civilization that predates their culture, it would explain why efforts had been made to cover up the findings over the decades. Today, the water erosion hypothesis is still shunned by the Egyptological community. There's also been a lot of conversation about the secret tunnels under the Great Sphinx. Back in 1987, a Japanese research team from Tokyo's Waseda University began an extensive underground survey of the regions surrounding the Great Sphinx statue, utilizing groundbreaking technology at the time known as the electromagnetic sounding survey radar, in an attempt to better image the sunken regions of the Sphinx statue. Under the direction of lead researcher Sakuhi Yoshimura, the team got some of the most accurate 3D rendered images of the statue ever seen, with the strange revelation that no one had seen coming. For some unknown reason, the Japanese survey team discovered an extensive system of cavities and tunnels inside and underneath the Great Sphinx monolith that were believed to have been previously undiscovered. According to the team, south of the Sphinx was a hollow tunnel believed to have been 2.5 meters wide and 3 meters tall connecting two chambers, a small and large chamber that appears to connect to additional tunnels that stretched north, south, and southeast of the Sphinx's direction. Portions of shafts were found in unconnected areas beneath the Sphinx, with additional cavities found inside the structure of the Sphinx and beside the body of the Sphinx, unconnected to the tunnels beneath the monolith. None of these findings have been pursued after the survey, with many denying the existence of the tunnels and shafts, despite the mountains of clear imaging evidence gathered under the direction of lead researchers. Another question that's been put forward is the Sphinx really a Sphinx? Originally a theory put forward by the groundbreaking author Robert Temple, there appeared to be overwhelming evidence that the Sphinx we know today was actually an attempt to do nothing more than to claim the works of those before him. Evidence for this can be found when analyzing the head-to-body ratio of the large Sphinx statue. The head on the Sphinx is so small compared to the rest of its body that researchers had often believed upon first sight that it could have been grinded down from a much more massive structure. The second piece of evidence provided by the hieroglyphics located at the Temple of Temchifer that outline in great detail that the original god of ancient Giza was Anubis, and the accounts and images of Anubis in his jackal form are drawn all throughout the site in the same pose as of the body of the Sphinx, with no mention of a lion of any kind at that ancient city. Interestingly, this exact same pose was discovered in one of the only tombs of an Egyptian pharaoh ever discovered that had been completely undisturbed since his burial, the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Within King Tut's tomb is a shrine to Anubis that demonstrates an exact scale of the Sphinx statue, but with the head of a jackal to represent Anubis, showing in overwhelming evidence that the original statue of the ancient city of Giza was supposed to be that of a jackal-headed Anubis, and not that of a lion body with a human head. So, where do we get the idea of a human head and a lion body? The truth is, the only reason why this statue is referred to as a sphinx is because of old Greek mythologies, such as those of Oedipus, that talk about a lion with the head of a man called a sphinx, but no such symbol exists in that of ancient Egypt. This means that the hieroglyphic texts that describe the Sphinx with a human head to represent the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty were nothing more than forgeries, and these were by the then pharaoh to take credit for a great statue of which he had not created nor designed. In fact, a pre-dynastic pharaoh gives a great account about providing his royal dog as a grand burial at the site of ancient Giza. In this text, his argument for why he had such a royal burial for what has been speculated to be his guard dog was due to his want and need to have the dog buried before the great god Anubis. Not only definitively proving that the Sphinx was originally that of the god Anubis in the jackal form, but also that the structure itself was created during the pre-dynastic times long before any pharaoh could claim ownership of its creation. So does the Sphinx predate Egypt? Given the fact that the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty forged the creation of the Sphinx under his name, countless researchers believe that the Sphinx could in fact be far older than anyone else has ever realized. In fact, new evidence and research today has found that it could very well be possible that the Sphinx structure itself is far older than supposed Egyptian writings and documents. One of the main reasons for why the Sphinx has been dated its current age of 4,511 years old is not due to carbon dating or other reliable efforts made to accurately measure its date, but rather because of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and documents, which that detail that the Sphinx was supposedly created during the reign of Egypt's 4th dynasty. Unfortunately, it was recently discovered that these documents could very well not be legitimate, and that the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty forged them for the sole purpose of taking credit of another past pharaoh's work. A common practice amongst pharaohs to rewrite history and take the honor of a past pharaoh's lifelong efforts. This could very well mean that not only was the creation of the Sphinx older than that of the dynastic reigns of Egypt, but that perhaps the structure is older than the Egyptian civilization themselves. Further evidence of this theory can be found when analyzing the recent archaeological finds of strange bones discovered all throughout ancient Egypt. It is well known amongst Egyptologists that the ancient Egyptians treasured animals of all kinds, believing them to be the representation of their gods. It is due to this observation that strange structures and bones from animals all around the world, even from areas previously believed to have not been operating open trade routes, have surfaced all across ancient Egyptian cities. Described as Egyptian zoos, strange hieroglyphics and designs have come forward showing evidence that not only were the early Egyptians capable of owning strange beasts from around the world, but that they possibly possessed an extinct species of woolly mammoth. Dubbed as the world's first zoo, a 6,000-year-old ancient Egyptian cemetery was uncovered filled with the remains of wild animals from all around the world that should have been unable to collect from the reaches of early man for thousands of years to come. Skeletons of ostriches, crocodiles, leopards, and other exotic animals were found alongside pools of water, large fenced-in cages, and a potential animal hospital filled with removed molars, teeth, claws, and evidence of animal surgeries. Though the importance of animals regarding the Egyptian religion was widely known, the evidence of the global reach of the species available to them, including species long believed to be extinct, has been a mystery that even the most elite of archaeologists and Egyptologists have failed to explain. This is odd, though mostly due to the fact that it is widely believed by historians and archaeologists all around the world that the oldest civilization to exist was merely 10,000 years old. However, evidence in the fossil record shows that the modern-day intelligent human has been around for more than 500,000 years. If this is true, why is it then that the oldest cities don't start appearing until past 10,000 years? It might have to do with the evidence of the extinct animals recorded at Egypt. The woolly mammoth was one of many distinct megafauna that went extinct at around the same time in the fossil record, merely 10,000 years ago. These extinct species included the mastodon, short-faced bear, the giant ground sloth, and many others. In fact, when Charles Darwin first visited the areas near the Galapagos Islands, when he originally discovered the ground sloth bones, they were so fresh that he believed them to still be a living species of megafauna, ultimately proving the recency of their extinction. So why was it then that around 10,000 years ago of all these species went extinct, partly due to three strange reasons: large fires, a massive flood, and a sudden ice age? The evidence for these three events are widely known by archaeologists and research scientists that found in the fossil record evidence that showed that, all around the Earth, there appeared to be massive fires that were followed by a rapid cooling event that only took about 4 decades, as well as certain events being hit by numerous tsunamis and large flooding. Many experts had originally speculated that perhaps a massive meteorite strike could have caused such a phenomenon, but no large craters supporting the theory had yet been discovered at the time of the original publications. However, recently a massive crater underneath an ice sheet in Greenland shows a tremendous impact point where a meteor could have hit, generating more than 700 megatons of force. So much force, in fact, that it would have caused a full-on nuclear winter. Any human civilization at the time, regardless of how advanced, would have been completely wiped off the face of the Earth in such a massive meteor strike. All of this happening at not only around the same time as a massive extinction event, but also around the same time the oldest civilizations would have been constructed. Could this be evidence then that perhaps the pyramids at Giza and the Sphinx, as well as many other advancements made in megalithic structures and creations, could actually more accurately have come from the efforts of human beings from before this catastrophic event, and the Egyptians were merely one of many surviving people to pick up where humanity left off? Given the incredible advancements we have made in the past 10,000 years, this could very well mean that the humans before the event could have been significantly more advanced than we are today, and the old stories of gods and kings could very well have just been the technological advancements before humanity had to reset due to such a catastrophic tragedy. But what do you all think of these impossible to explain mysteries surrounding the Great Sphinx of Egypt? People are fascinated with space, and every year scientists around the globe make interesting discoveries, causing us to question our place in the universe. Various objects have been discovered recently which have caused divide within the scientific community. For example, one of these went by the name of Oumuamua. On the 19th of October 2017, we were visited by something that we couldn't explain. It was called Oumuamua, and astronomers were confused when they first noticed this object traveling through our solar system. The object in question had come from another solar system, and people quickly started to speculate what this object was. It could be seen traveling around the sun and then shooting away again. The first theory that was put forward was that it was an asteroid. The scientists looked at the size of the object, which was 2,600 feet, or 800 meters long, and around 260 feet, or 80 meters wide. However, not long after its discovery, astronomers said it was not acting as it should. They picked up on the fact that Oumuamua showed a really strong non-gravitational acceleration. This told the researchers that its motion indicated that gravity was not the only thing dictating its path. Many people have put forward their theories, one of which is that this object is extraterrestrial in nature. The fact that it moves like nothing researchers have seen before could indicate it's under intelligent control. Most scientists suggested that Oumuamua was likely something natural, and that its acceleration was due to a natural phenomenon. The next idea was that this mysterious object was releasing a large amount of hydrogen, and this was causing it to speed up. Interestingly, though, not everyone has agreed with this idea. Going back on the 17th of August 2020, a new paper was published in the astrophysical journal Letters. Leo and Namhang, who are astrophysicists at the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute, have said they don't think the hydrogen idea holds up, and that it wouldn't work in space. This has caused some excitement as some have gone back to the idea that this is alien tank. After all, there's many strange properties about this object that researchers can't explain. For example, the way it mimicked a comet, but yet it didn't have a tail. Also, NASA themselves reported that the interstellar visitor is 10 times as long as it is wide, and that this aspect ratio is far greater than any asteroid or comet observed in our solar system to date. It's these kinds of discoveries that give people hope that life is somewhere out there in the vastness of space. Interestingly, scientists aren't against the idea of there being alien life within the universe, but say at this moment in time we have no proof of alien life. Regardless, there's those that have claimed to have found evidence that goes against this. And this can be found in the form of unidentified flying objects discovered close to our sun. You wouldn't think of our sun as being a hotspot for UFOs, but theories state that every year cameras close to the sun pick up on strange anomalies, and these match the typical descriptions of UFOs. This photograph was captured a while back, and it caused some to suggest that an unidentified flying object was zooming away from the sun. The object appears to be leaving a trail behind it, and this soon led various theories to be put forward to try and explain it. Some suggested that because it's so close to the sun, it must have been something that's able to take a lot of heat, and although it looks tiny in the image, in real life this object would be massive. UFO researchers have said that these objects must be UFOs, as nothing natural could withstand being this close to the sun. With one UFO researcher saying the following, "I don't think we can explain what these objects are, and at the moment it's anyone's guess. I also don't believe this is natural. The way these objects act and move is very strange. It's like they're under intelligent control. I think we should be a bit more open-minded when it comes to these types of photographs. I find that scientists take an issue when something mysterious comes along. It's as if they tried to explain it straight away. What's wrong with labeling something as mysterious or unknown? We can't have all the answers for the universe." As of right now, UFO researchers think these crafts have been visiting our sun for years, and even suggest they may be using it as some type of portal, or the sun could be some type of fueling station. With that being said, though, there's a large amount of people that can't get on board with these ideas, and say that these objects are just anomalies or even illusions. NASA said the following about these anomalies. Ever since launch, there's been a number of people who've claimed to have seen flying saucers and other objects in SOHO images. Although some of the supposed pictures of UFOs can seem quite intriguing, they have always turned out to have quite an ordinary cause when examined by experienced SOHO scientists. Recently, we've been receiving so many questions and claims that we'd like to set the record straight. We've never seen anything that even suggests that there's UFOs out there. In the past, we've been accused of covering up UFO evidence when we present our explanations, and of refusing to comment or clamming up when we give up on somebody who won't accept our explanations. While we don't expect to convince everyone, we hope that our pages and links can provide some information for the curious who want to investigate the claims on their own. Most commonly, UFO claims are due to natural flaws or artifacts in our publicly available data. Some of the things that people are seeing are planets, cosmic rays, software glitches, and debris. Another NASA official said the following about these claims. The majority of these alleged UFO sightings can be easily explained. One of the things that people see is space debris that's made its way in front of the cameras. When these pieces of debris are up close, it can look like an unidentified flying object. In reality, people are just seeing a common piece of space debris. Right now, there's still people that believe these objects are not natural, and that some photographs show what looks like crafts under intelligent control. Although it's easy to dismiss some of these claims, it's also important to have an open mind about these objects and the subject in general. When it comes to the universe, we are monumentally small and inconsequential. There's quadrillions of planets scattered all throughout the universe. And all you need is one of them to be 100,000 years ahead of us, and potentially you'd have a civilization 100,000 years more advanced. Think how much we've achieved in the last 100 years alone. So is it really out there to think that an advanced civilization could exist somewhere in the universe? So what do you make of these strange objects being seen around our sun? Do you think they're UFOs? Or is there a more natural explanation? The human body is a peculiar subject to study. With medicine and our knowledge constantly expanding and evolving, it can be shocking how little we genuinely know about ourselves. It can often feel as though every time doctors and scientists believe they've solved one problem, more questions arise. When people with bizarre and extraordinary experiences recount their unique tales, more and more gaps in our understanding of the human body are unearthed. Keely Favell. Keely Favell from Swansea began to put on weight in 2014. Initially, she thought she was just gaining weight and then considered a potential pregnancy, though neither turned out to be the case in this cause of this rapid weight gain. Initially, Favell didn't question her weight gain too much due to the slow pace of the growth, until 2016 when she began to experience more notable difficulty breathing and fainted at work. She and her partner took home pregnancy tests, all of which gave negative results. And so, with encouragement from family and friends, Keely headed to her GP. Upon the initial appointment, her GP drew the same conclusion that she was pregnant, despite blood tests not confirming this. She had an ultrasound. When it was first confirmed she wasn't pregnant, she was immediately referred for an emergency CT scan, where she was told she had a large ovarian mass and that surgery would be a necessity. Favell had an ovarian cyst, which by the time it was removed weighed a staggering 26 kilos. An ovarian cyst is a sac full of fluid that develops on either one or both of the woman's ovaries. It's a relatively common occurrence and often shows no symptoms. Typically, symptoms only occur if it's extremely large, blocks the blood supply, or bursts. While there's a range of symptoms an ovarian cyst can cause, bloating was the only symptom that Keely Favell displayed. The overwhelming size of the cyst was unquestionably abnormal. Only 4 weeks after having discovered this, Keely Favell went under surgery, described as an old-fashioned C-section. The doctors inserted from her chest bone to her pelvic bone, and the cyst was removed. While the procedure for removing the ovarian cyst is a common and well-practiced procedure, the overwhelming size resulted in a 90-minute procedure taking more than 4 hours to complete. To provide some context as to the severity of the case, for the vast majority of ovarian cysts, surgery isn't normally required. They simply disappear after a few months. Typically, surgery is only necessary if it's a cancerous cyst, and most ovarian cysts aren't. Once the procedure was complete, the sheer severity of the unique situation became apparent. The cyst had made up 1/3 of her body weight and was the size of approximately 7 newborn babies or an 8-year-old child. During her recovery, she only encountered some minor issues that were promptly resolved. Prior to her surgery, Favell discussed how she would often be mistaken for a pregnant woman. To avoid embarrassment, she would simply agree and comply when people asked about her due. Whilst this bizarre occurrence has been resolved and Keely Favell is healthy and well, it remains remarkable and frightening how far our body will push beyond their limits. Doctors removed tapeworm from Austin Mann's brain. Gerardo Moctezuma is believed to have lived with a tapeworm within his brain for over a decade, this being largely symptom-free. Moctezuma had the tapeworm removed from his brain in early 2020. A A tapeworm infection is contracted when the individual consumes food or water containing tapeworm eggs or larvae. Sometimes the tapeworm can then migrate into various tissues and organs, spreading and moving around the body. In the USA, there are an approximate 1,000 cases reported annually, though there are many that are unidentified and therefore not reported. Because of this, it's impossible to determine the true figure. When Moctezuma, the parasite led to a brain infection, giving him painful headaches. He dismissed this as tension. He also experienced intense sweat and vomiting. This came from the severity of his pain, which he continued to ignore. This was until he fainted whilst playing soccer. Moctezuma was treated at the Del Seton Medical Center. He received an MRI scan that revealed a large red shape in the image of his brain, revealing the tapeworm. A neurosurgeon believed that the tapeworm could have been undetected for over a decade. Guests speculate he gained this from having eaten undercooked pork in Mexico, although the last time Gerardo claims to have been was 10 years prior to the discovery of the tapeworm back in 2010. Fortunately, the tapeworm could be surgically removed, allowing him to make a full recovery. Often tapeworm infections can remain unnoticed for significant lengths of time due to the slow rate of growth. There are usually minimal or no symptoms. Furthermore, a tapeworm infection can often appear to be a different illness or ailment. This leads to a misdiagnosis or a dismissal, but anything's out of the ordinary. The Center for Disease Control says the cause of tapeworm infection is eating undercooked beef or pork. If symptoms present themselves, then the patient may experience digestive issues, a loss of appetite, stomach pain, weight loss, or headaches. Often in underdeveloped countries, places that lack strict sanitation laws, or in the USA. For example, Texas and California are considered to be common areas with tapeworm infections. Whilst tapeworm infections can be rare, and Gerardo Moctezuma certainly accompanied his for a long time, he continues to be recovering well. Indonesian boy claims to have laid 20 eggs. In both 2015 and 2018, Akmal, a boy from Indonesia, claimed to have laid eggs. By 2018, at just age 14, Akmal had allegedly laid 20 eggs. This hasn't been an isolated incident, but instead, according to his father, has happened regularly since 2015. His father also explained that when the eggs had been cracked open or all egg whites. This is unlike the classic chicken egg, which is a combination. With severe stomach pain, supposedly caused from the strange ability, Akmal was hospitalized. This was where he proceeded to lay 2 eggs in front of doctors. While some say this eliminates the possibility of a lie and proves it to be true, some doctors remain convinced this is impossible. Akmal was diagnosed with the corpus elenum, which simply means there's a foreign object within the human body, and fails to provide any further explanation as to how it appeared. In 2018, Akmal was quarantined in a hospital in order to study this apparent condition, though the belief amongst experts and the vast majority of the public is that the eggs were purposefully put there. The father has denied this happening, though it does seem to be the most logical explanation for a rather incredible event. He's also refuted accusations of Akmal swallowing the eggs, while stating, why would he do that? Doctors have highlighted that even if the body were physically capable of laying eggs, which it isn't, the organs responsible would be separate and distinct from the digestive system. As of May 2020, the eggs were confirmed to have been chicken eggs, as suspected due to the shape, size, and color of the eggs he was supposedly producing. The local police were also involved, sending a child protection unit to investigate and aid in the case of ill treatment. Whether you think this is an absurd hoax or an unexplained phenomenon, the public certainly haven't looked fondly upon Akmal's astounding ability. The human body is miraculous, but that means unanswered questions will continue to pop up and confuse us all. Whether we dismiss signs of illness that then grow into something strange, illnesses with we find something unique about our own bodies. It's impossible to avoid the reality that there's so much about the human body we simply don't know. So what do you make of these mysterious body discoveries? Many people the world over are fascinated with dinosaurs. We are normally introduced to them as children, and many of us don't fall out of love with them. For the last few decades, dinosaurs have made it into the mainstream media. They've been featured in films, television, and books. Throughout the history of our planet, untold billions of species have come and gone throughout the years, facing extinction-level events that required new life to take on. Different to this day, though, people are able to get their hands on ancient relics of the past, and these include things like dinosaur teeth and bones. It's incredible to think that millions of years ago, these giant creatures called this planet home. During this period, they owned the planet. Nothing on Earth could compare to them, and they firmly cemented themselves as being the greatest predators this world has seen. However, every so often there's a post that goes viral, and these show alleged dinosaurs that have been created by scientists. Scientists say that these are not true, and that anyone claiming to have found or created dinosaurs are lying. This hasn't stopped various posts from claiming that scientists have created a new dinosaur. The most recent post is this one that claims scientists created this dinosaur, and they now plan to make more. Many people were excited by this, as the thought of seeing or going to a park that houses dinosaurs is appealing. However, after a little digging, it turns out this photograph is just for Jurassic World, and is most likely an animatronic that will feature in the upcoming film. Although dinosaurs, as we know it, have gone extinct, scientists the world over have proposed theories to bring them back. So the question on many people's mind is, can we actually do this? Scientists say that theoretically, yes, we can. Interestingly, going back a few years ago, biologists took it upon themselves to carry out a test which would show them what a chicken and dinosaur hybrid would look like. This is the first step in understanding how we could create a 21st century dinosaur, and what that creature would look like. The scientists working on the project were able to isolate clusters of genes that aid in facial development. The team was then able to discover a way of stopping them in the chicken embryos. And after doing this, they were left with an animal that looked very similar to what a velociraptor would have looked like. The lead author of the study, Bart Ongibola, from Yale University, said the following: "We had not set out to create a dinosaur chicken. When examining an important evolutionary transformation, we wanted to find out about the underlying process. The biggest part of the avian skeleton that is most extensively and radically diverse, we wanted to find out if the beak was functional." End quote. The scientists wanted to highlight the fact that beaks develop in a much different way to snouts. This is because they use a different set of genes. This proves that the beak is an adaptation, as opposed to being a nose shape that is slightly different. Michael Bentham from Bristol University in the UK said the following: "I believe that the move from beak to snout occurred around 40 to 50 million years after the Archaeopteryx. As of right now, the scientists have no plans to hatch these raptor-looking chickens." The scientists went on to say the following: "These weren't drastic modifications. They are far less weird than many breeds of chickens developed by chicken hobbyists and breeders. The rest of the animal looked okay. But one needs to think about this carefully from an ethical point of view." End quote. Others said, though, they don't believe that in some secret lab this hasn't happened, and say that people have definitely hatched these chicken dinosaurs. So although the idea of bringing back dinosaurs sounds far-fetched, researchers have said there's a way they can do this, but it would involve the creature being a sort of hybrid. Various scientists and researchers have shown interest in bringing back animals, with scientists in Russia and South Korea announcing they plan to bring back prehistoric creatures. The team are carrying out research in a lab that costs $5.9 million to build, and they hope to study animals that were once extinct by looking at their cells. Some of the creatures they are looking at bringing back include the cave lion, woolly mammoth, woolly rhino, and species of horses. At this moment in time, researchers have said it's near impossible to do this with dinosaurs. But some of these Ice Age creatures still have intact tissues in cells, which makes the process much easier. This is no longer a fantasy. Scientists from Harvard and Russia have already delved into mixing genes to bring back species that are extinct. They want to put woolly mammoth genes into an Asian elephant and plan to do this by 2021. Scientists have even said that some of these tests are only being carried out due to our current climate. Whatever your belief is, many can agree that our planet is heating up. Whether you think it's down to human activity or a natural cycle of the Earth, Researchers have said that where this is happening, it's actually helping to reveal things beneath the ice. And one of the things they keep discovering is that of prehistoric creatures. And where they've been hidden for so long, their skin and muscle tissues are still very much intact. This means it's much easier to begin the process of trying to clone them. This isn't the case for dinosaurs, or at least it wasn't thought to be. Back in 2005, a discovery was made when a paleontologist discovered one of ancient Earth's most impressive predators. Tyrannosaurus rex has gone down in history as being one of the most well-known dinosaurs. This tyrant lizard king would have ruled the Cretaceous 66 million years ago. It's well known that the Tyrannosaurus rex had the strongest bite of any land animal. This has been proven with recent computer simulations, and it's estimated this giant predator would have crushed its prey with over 13,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. A few years back, a 68-million-year-old bone from a T-Rex was found that had soft tissue inside, and right from the get-go, this discovery left many people with questions. The discovery was made by Mary Schweitzer, a molecular paleontologist at North Carolina State University. Soft tissue and blood was found inside the Tyrannosaurus rex specimen, and even other scientists were confused as they thought soft tissue should degrade in less than 1 million years. And here you have a 65-million-year-old fossil that's still showing soft tissue. However, as of today, new research has suggested that the iron in the dinosaur's body preserved the tissue before it could decay. So what do you guys make of these discoveries? And if you had the choice, would you bring back the dinosaurs? Many incredible painters have made themselves known throughout history, and at first glance their paintings are just beautiful works of art. But it isn't until we take a closer look that some pieces of artwork begin to reveal their secrets. For example, one of the most famous ones is that of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Possibly one of the most sought-after pieces in the art world is that of the masterpiece by Leonardo da Vinci, known as the Mona Lisa. Valued at more than $800 million by today's standards, the piece is often at the center of most discussions regarding the realm of the golden age of the Renaissance and the dedication the old masters had to any one particular piece of art. Interestingly, as Leonardo da Vinci worked on the masterpiece, he had several different symbols and codes that took art enthusiasts decades to find. It appears that the old master left several different letters and numbers hidden throughout the painting. When viewing the piece under a microscope, Italian scholars discovered the letters LV hidden in the Mona Lisa's right eye and the letters CE in the left eye. Additionally, the bridge in the background landscape of the painting bears the inscription 72 and a hidden date that starts with 149, but leaves the last number completely scratched out. Although researchers believe the larger number to represent the year in which the piece was originally started, no one knows what these other numbers and letters hidden throughout the painting could mean. It was after these discoveries that people started to comb through other paintings in the hopes of finding other undiscovered secrets. It turns out that others do have strange markings and symbols, but one that's interested many people is that of Dutch Renaissance artist Peter Bruegel. The painting in question shows a battle, but it's what's in the background that's caught people's attention. Those who look closely have claimed they can see people riding dinosaurs, and that whatever these creatures are, they don't resemble modern-day animals. Some have noted how the dinosaur-looking creatures look out of place, and have noted that only 3 of them can be seen in the painting. One of the reasons these creatures have only been spotted recently is because they are towards the back of the painting, and you can only really see them when you're up close. It's important to note that during the 16th century there were no dinosaurs, with scientists saying that dinosaurs were wiped out around 65 million years ago by a massive event, most likely a giant asteroid that made contact of our planet and set off a chain of events. This then caused some to suggest that the creatures in the painting are horses. But this doesn't add up, as horses can be seen in the painting, and there's obvious differences between the two. Others put forward the idea these creatures are actually camels, with one person saying the following: although these creatures do look interesting, what we're most likely seeing here is camels. Camel cavalry is the term used when forces use camels in battle. These are definitely not dinosaurs, even though I can see why people would think this. Also, the size of the creatures matches that of a camel. Many people that believe these creatures are dinosaurs are those of young life creationists. This is a religious belief that the earth and all life on it was created in a lateral 6-day span, and that all life found cannot date back more than 6,000 years. Their basic idea was that the bones of dinosaurs that were found were those that died during the flood. Because this wasn't long ago, they state that a few rare dinosaurs, including flying avian ancient species, could have survived in the modern era. In regards to Noah's Ark, creation museums say that dinosaurs were also housed on the Ark, and they were protected by God. However, surprisingly, there are some skeptics. Historians say that dinosaurs didn't die 6,000 years ago, and the idea of there being a great flood is debatable. Scientists do believe that at one point in time water levels did rise, and they say this happened because the remains of various ancient civilizations have been found underwater, but state that the idea of there being a massive flood that submerged mountains didn't happen, stating that there simply isn't enough water on this planet to do something like that. Believers in this theory state that a great flood did happen, and that there's even evidence that human and dinosaurs coexisted. One of the locations that allegedly proves this idea is that of the Paluxy River. This can be found near Glenrose, Texas. It was during the 1930s that this discovery came to light, and which caused many at the time to question whether humans and dinosaurs lived during the same time. If this turned out to be true, such a finding would dramatically contradict the conventional geologic timetable, which holds that humans did not appear on Earth until over 60 million years after the dinosaurs became extinct. However, the human and dinosaur tracks have been debunked by scientists, as they claim that what people are seeing is actually dinosaur tracks. The supposed tracks do at first glance look like that of a human's. However, scientists have said the most likely answer is that these are metatarsal dinosaur tracks, or even carvings. These creations are made by bipedal dinosaurs, and we get these impressions when these dinosaurs press the heels and soles into the mud. Mud flow would then fill in some of the surrounding area, causing it to look similar to that of a human footprint. They say these types of footprints can be found in other formation where tracks are found. Regardless, scientists haven't won over everyone, as there's still some that state that what we're seeing is in fact a human footprint, and the idea of it being dinosaurs was put forward to keep people quiet. These people aren't alone though, as many reports from different countries have stated they have proof of dinosaurs, and some of these come in the form of eyewitness accounts and even carvings found in old temples. Although similar answers are given for these discoveries, others believe that certain places on our planet still hold proof that humans once walked the planet with dinosaurs. Various stories are still being told of people encountering prehistoric-looking creatures, with even early explorers backing up these claims. It seems that all the time these types of discoveries are being made, people are still going to believe in this idea. So what do you guys make of this painting? And what do you think the artist is trying to depict? Also, although scientists say that man and dinosaur never lived on the planet during the same time, do you think they did?
Recently, there's been news that cleaners
discovered a giant rat underneath Mexico City. Various news outlets reported that the workers couldn't believe it when they discovered the giant rodents, and that at first they actually ran away from the scene. The discovery was made on the 18th of September, where at the time they were cleaning the local sewers. The giant rodent was discovered along with 22 tons of litter, and at the time the workers were trying to remove as much as they could from the city's drainage tunnels. This was due to the recent heavy rains. The story goes that while down in the tunnels the workers turned a corner, and to their surprise they could see a giant rat hunched over. As you can imagine, the workers were shocked to see such a large rodent in the sewers, and were getting ready to report it to the local authorities. One of the first things that people asked was, "Is it real?" with another person saying it's photoshopped. As it turns out, the photographs are real, but the rat itself is actually part of a Halloween prop. The prop had been washed out of a local warehouse by the storm, and somehow ended up in the sewer system below the city. The story has a happy ending, though, as a woman by the name of Evelyn Lopez has come forward and claimed the rat, saying that she had created it from scratch. Lopez said she was very sad when it went missing, and that no one at the time would help her find her giant rat. Regardless, the rat is now said to be in safe hands. Interestingly, although this story turned out to just be a Halloween prompt, there's others who have come forward and told stories about mysterious creatures living in sewers. One of these creatures that's allegedly been seen in sewers is known as the Wampus Beast. The Wampus Beast, also known as the Wampus Cat, derives its origins from an old Cherokee folklore that describes the creature as looking like a large monster, similar to that in look and design of a monstrous panther. According to the story, an old Cherokee woman was suspicious of her husband and was curious as to where he was going when he claimed he was hunting. This then led the woman to take the hide of an animal and go out and spy on the husband. It didn't take long for the guards of the inn believing her to be a spy for other tribes in the region. She was cursed with spells to be trapped in the hide forever. This turned her into the Wampus Beast, leaving her cursed in the form of a large panther. Today, rumors claim that the Wampus Beast lives in the sewers in the day, and so carries with it a repulsive stench. There's various people all over the US that have claimed to have seen this creature, and that at night, wails can be heard coming from sewers. The beast is said to roam various locations, and those that have seen it have described it as being a panther-like creature, while others have said it's more humanoid in appearance. This in turn has inspired many urban legends. Others have claimed to have seen humans living in the sewers, and again all this has done is cause various legends to grow. One eyewitness said that while exploring an underground tunnel network in the United States, they encountered something unexplained, and to this day they can't explain what it was they saw. The two friends said that while exploring they could hear strange noises coming from deep within the tunnel, and because the noises were coming from the direction they were heading, they decided to go and check it out. As they got closer, whatever was making the noises seemed to be aware of their presence and started to make a loud hissing noise. The friends thought that perhaps an animal had got stuck down there and that it was trying when they got close enough. One of them shined a light on the creature, revealing a tall humanoid-looking creature with long arms, a gaunt face, a skinny torso and legs. The creature was blinded by the light and quickly fled the area. The friends said they think the light scared the creature. The friends were also afraid of the creature as they reported that it didn't look human. They followed it for a few minutes before losing sight of the creature. Various stories have been told that are similar to this, and this has led some to believe that humanoids may be living underneath cities and tunnel systems. Others, however, have given an explanation for what some might be seeing. Cryptid experts have said these creatures could be an undiscovered species. Although the majority of people don't believe this theory, and have said that the more likely explanation is that these are animals. One researcher said that some of the sightings could be that of monkeys, and perhaps they escaped zoos or their owners, and now call these places home, noting that the loud screeches and fast movements matched that of monkeys. Another person suggested that what people are seeing is humans, and that their skinny whitish look is due to living underground for several years, and not having access to healthy foods. This would make sense as humans who live in these conditions are skinny and pale. Further saying that some people don't have a choice about where they live, and so venture underground as there's no other place to go. This isn't fiction either. It turns out that groups of people have been discovered living in sewers and tunnel systems. These individuals were quickly given the name of mole people. Mole people, also known as tunnel people, are people that live under large cities using the underground tunnel systems to navigate. These individuals call these underground sewage tunnels home. In fact, a documentary was released in 2000 that followed a group of people living underneath New York City. Because of this, it's caused some to be more open-minded about urban legends that involve humanoids living in underground tunnels. Regardless, there's still some that believe in these urban legends, and that there's mysterious creatures that call these underground systems home. All the time that people are still seeing mysterious and unidentified creatures, these sorts of stories are going to be spread. Regardless of what you believe, it seems that in some locations these underground systems are alive. So what do you make of these mysterious sewer stories? If you go searching for waterfalls to explore, Niagara Falls must be on your radar. After all, these falls are iconic. There are 3 waterfalls that fall between the American state of New York and the Canadian province of Ontario. The largest is Horseshoe Falls, that's mostly on the Canadian side, with the American and Bridal Veil Falls on the American side. Besides the number of people who attempt to go over the falls, walk across them, or try other stunts, there are a few other interesting facts that you probably don't already know. Engineers drained Niagara Falls in 1969. To fully comprehend the magic of Niagara Falls, we'll start by looking at the past and what's already taken place there. If you take a look at the falls today, you'd never believe that at one point they were completely drained. Why and what was the point behind someone doing this? Well, in 1969, Niagara's American Falls were dewatered for 6 months during the summer and autumn months, evaluate the rock face and determine if erosion was causing it to become destabilized. Stopping such a powerful waterfall was no easy feat. The American Army built a 600-foot dam across the Niagara River, diverting the 60,000 gallons of water that flowed each second entirely over to the Canadian side. The dam was built up of nearly 30,000 tons of rocks and used to stop the flow of the American Falls, since only 10% of the water followed that route. While the falls dried up, many engineers got to work and analyzed any faults that would ultimately damage the falls over time. Workers continued to clean out the bottom of the river, and tourists were able to view the inaccessible falls from a viewpoint that was 20 feet from the edge of the dry falls. Sadly, a woman's body was retrieved from under the falls once they had dried up, and as the project continued, a man jumped over the falls, took his own life. After almost 4 months of working on the falls, the dam was blown up with dynamite in front of 2,650 observers. The flow of the American Falls was restored and Niagara Falls returned to the falls we know and love today. What do you think about the water from Niagara Falls being stopped? Was it necessary, or could it have been avoided? It appears as if they made the right call to prevent as much damage early on. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in the future. A system developed to enable power from Niagara Falls. Another fact about Niagara Falls that may surprise you is that it is a great source of power. How great is the power source, and when did this happen? Inventor Nikola Tesla was the intelligence behind this creation and this groundbreaking method of sourcing power. As most inventors do, Nikola Tesla saw and thought outside the box. He could see past the beauty of the falls themselves and uncover one of the best ways to create power through a hydroelectric power plant. In 1895, Tesla worked with an industrialist by the name of George Westinghouse to create the first hydroelectric plant at Niagara Falls. This invention not only was a stroke of genius, but it also changed the way we look at natural forces as a means to fulfill our ever-growing needs as a society. To make matters even more interesting, Tesla was actually rivals with Thomas Edison at the time. They were competing against each other to see who could produce the most efficient system to transmit electricity. They went head-to-head as they competed to see whose invention would live on. Tesla created alternating current. Meanwhile, Edison created direct current. Ultimately, AC was more efficient and less expensive. Both men presented a proposal to create a plant at Niagara Falls. In 1893, and as I'm sure you can guess, they went with Tesla and Westinghouse's idea. The biggest selling point of Tesla's proposal in comparison to Edison's was that there was a strong belief that his system could be transmitted over long distances. When looking at Edison's proposal, on the other hand, they held great doubt that this would function in the same way. For Nikola Tesla, creating this plant at Niagara Falls wasn't something it was a lifelong dream of his to work on a system that could be powered by the falls. As a child, he played with mechanical models and created water turbines, insisting that he would go to America someday to work on it. His dream came true after many years of hard work and determination. Its electricity was ordered by thousands in the first few years, which led to the increase of generators due to the demand. That led to more of the United States using this type of power, and by 1920, over 25% of the country was using hydroelectric plants for their electricity. It's safe to say that Nikola Tesla probably doesn't get enough credit. However, have you heard of him before? You may have, but somehow Edison still gets all the praise when it comes to discoveries surrounding electricity. Tesla was truly a genius and has left an amazing legacy in working with Niagara Falls. We probably wouldn't be where we are today if it hadn't been for his ingenuity and desire to work with this natural wonder to create a life-changing source of power. Niagara Falls is slowly eroding. Did you know that Niagara Falls is slowly eroding? Erosion at the falls has been a long ongoing issue. But how bad is it? The interesting thing is that if you were to visit the falls and then not to return for 10 or 50 years, you probably wouldn't notice a difference, but experts have noted that they are slowly eroding. Over the years, the rate of erosion has been approximately 3 feet per year. And over the past 12,300 years, it has eroded 11.4 kilometers. Fortunately, due to corrective efforts, the falls continue to erode at about 1 foot per year on average since 1942. Even at only 1 foot per year, it's eroding at a rapid rate. But how is this happening? The rate at which the vast amount of water flows over the rocks causes rocks to break, and minerals that would typically strengthen rocks are washed away by the water. The cold climate of the Niagara region from November to May each year also impacts the erosion of the falls. The rocks freeze, and then when they thaw in the summer months, they are more likely to endure breakage. Another issue is that the water currently flows over limestone rock, which is a fairly soft rock. As the water continues to flow heavily over the limestone, it will eventually break down and reach an even softer layer of rock beneath. When that happens, the rate of erosion will only increase, becoming more of a problem. There are many reasons as to why the erosion has slowed over the years, the main one being that the hydroelectric generation plants have been created through water from the Niagara River. Engineers are also aware of this problem that the falls face and regularly repair faults and construct underwater weirs, among other preventative measures. After further research, some experts suggest that the rate of erosion may switch from 1 foot per year to 1 foot every 10 years due to environmental efforts. Although that sounds promising, the effects of climate change and the unpredictability of a major rock breaking, for instance, no one can be sure of its timeline. The Niagara Falls are truly magnificent, so it's no wonder why engineers, inventors, and scientists have been using it to our advantage while simultaneously trying to protect it from future damage. Luckily, if you haven't made it to see Niagara Falls for yourself yet, you most likely have enough time to see them before they vanish before our eyes. While some scientists speculate the American Falls could be gone in 2,000 years, others believe that Niagara Falls will still be around for the next 50,000 years. The question is, how long will we be able to utilize the falls? It's clear that the erosion and other factors have played a factor in their eventual demise, but we don't quite know when that will be. While science is progressing significantly each year, we still don't have all of the answers. We'll just need to ride the wave and work to sustain the marvel that is Niagara Falls for as long as possible. But what do you make of these interesting facts about Niagara Falls? Some of the most unexplored regions on our planet are mountains. There's some people that have made it their life goal to conquer these massive structures, whereas others are fascinated with what rests on these natural formations. One of the difficult things that hikers face when exploring these regions is navigating, and this is due to the overgrown wildlife, impossible to pass terrain, and the overwhelming danger of overcoming one of the biggest obstacles in nature. This has also led me to conclude that there are strange objects that can be found in these regions. One of the most interesting discoveries goes by the name of the Mount Ararat anomaly. Noah's Ark is a story that many of us have heard of. It details the story of Noah, of whom was given the task of building a massive boat and placing on it examples of the world's animals. Interestingly, in recent years, a few researchers have come forward and said that one point in time a great flood did happen. Recent discoveries by underwater archaeologists suggest that this event did end up sinking many cities. One such finding was made off the coast of Turkey, where researchers found traces of ancient civilizations dating back since the time of Noah. One thing that's interesting is many civilizations talk about a great flood, and some of these are even documented. Some scientists don't actually doubt that this happened, but have suggested that it may not have been as massive as it's made out. For example, one theory is that the Great Flood could have been the flooding of the Black Sea, and researchers have said that rising water levels happened in this region around 7,000 years ago. Again, scientists know there was an event that sank cities. After all, several underwater ancient artifacts have been discovered in recent years. It's just the magnitude of the event that people can't seem to agree on. Noah's Ark is something that many of us have heard of. Many of us are fascinated by the story of Noah's Arkansas. Some people have even tried to replicate and build the entire thing. The search for Noah's Ark is never ending, and most of the search has been done on Mount Ararat in northeastern Turkey. To understand why Noah's Ark was never found, you need to be aware of the fact that the Bible says the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat. This happened on the 150th day of the flood. This place was a region and not just a single mountain. The biblical reference of mountains of Ararat suggests these mountains were formed well before the flood actually ended. The flood itself was a massive event that pretty much reshaped the planet's geology. The surface of our planet has continued to change since then. One of the first pieces of evidence of there being an anomaly on the mountain was taken by the U.S. Department of Defense in 1949. This image shows what appears to be a large object sitting on top of the mountain. This caused many people to question what it was and how such a large structure was able to get to this part of the mountain. Believers stated that this is the proof they needed, and that these photographs prove that a boat-shaped object now sits on the mountain. Various other images have been taken of the area, helping to fuel theories that more work is needed to be done in order to find out what this thing is. There's said to be various sites among Torarats where the structure can be found, and this has caused some to suggest that there may have been several bones. The idea behind these claims is that believers think the boat would have somehow survived on the mountain, with theories suggesting that the climate on the mountain helped to maintain some of the original shape. Whether Noah's Ark is ever going to be found, we don't know, but it's important to mention that Mount Ararat rests upon volcanic strata. Mount Ararat is known as a stratovolcano. A stratovolcano is a large conical-shaped volcano that's made up of one layer of hardened lava and volcanic ash. The area is actually made up of two stratovolcanoes. These are known as the Greater Ararat and the Lesser Ararat. It's also the Greater Ararat's massive size that poses an issue for the Ark's theory. It sits at a height of just over 16,000 feet or 5,000 meters above sea level. Researchers have said that even if the Great Flood was true, there's not enough water that could rise to this level. The next problem is that an eruption happened in 1840, covering the mountain and surrounding area in volcanic ash. The next thing researchers said is, how would a wooden structure be able to survive this volcanic flow? It would have been immediately destroyed upon impact, and that's if the structure was even there in the first place. Some have said it's obvious we are never going to find Noah's Ark on the mountain. The same people state it's also very much possible that Noah's Ark will never be found at all. However, some believers have said that the eruption may have somehow missed the structure, and that it's still sitting on the mountain to this day. The team of researchers even came forward and claimed they found solid proof of the structure, and this came in the form of wood found inside the anomaly. They claim this was part of the original structure and say this is proof the story is fact. Turkish and Chinese explorers say they're 99% sure this wood is the real deal. It was discovered by a 50-member team, and they claim that carbon dating proved this wood is over 4,800 years old. However, scientists said that none of this is possible. They say it's not scientifically conceivable that the Ark ended up on top of the 15,000 feet tall Mount Ararat. Quite simply, there's not enough water on Earth to raise water levels that high. And in case you were thinking that plate tectonics raised the mountain's peak since Noah's time, Mount Ararat was just as tall and out of reach then as it is now. Researchers say the orator nominee is very unlikely to be an ARG. 5 years ago, Farouk Elbaz, director of the Boston University Center for Remote Sensing, told Life Science that believers are interpreting satellite images with a biased outlook, going on to say the following: "The feature that has been interpreted as the Ararat anomaly is to me the ledge of a rock in partial shadow, with varied thickness of snow and ice cover." Answering Genesis also went on to say the following about the Mount Ararat anomaly: "This dormant volcano last erupted in 1840, and many larger eruptions occurred during the post-flood ice age. How would a wooden structure survive being buried by molten lava? Besides, Mount Ararat likely emerged from the floodwaters far too late for it to have been the mountain on which the ark ran aground. So what do you make of the Mount Ararat anomaly? Do you think it's proof of Noah's Ark? Or do you believe that the structure would not have been able to survive the various events that have played out over the years? UFO Hunters was a TV show that looked into different UFO accounts and spoke to I. Winters here, so he was at the locations where this cross was seen. The most interesting episodes was when they spoke to someone who helped clean up Roswell. This incident has gone down in history as being one of the most controversial UFO encounters, as various people have come out and spoken about it over the years. One of the most interesting things is that some reports argue against this being a weather balloon, and rather that of something much more mysterious. Others have come forward to back up these claims, and say that whatever came down that day was not a weather balloon, further saying that military officials were telling people not to say a word about this, and if they did, harsh punishments would be given out. The incident started when a rancher by the name of W.W. McBrazil, who lived near Roswell, New Mexico, found the crash of a craft in 1947, because there had been so many other flying saucer sightings that same year. Brazel believed this wreckage had been something similar. Major Jesse Marcel was sent to investigate the site to recover the wreckage. He announced in a press release they had recovered a flying disc, but the next day they retracted this and said it was only a weather balloon. Later on, however, the Air Force claimed that neither stories were true, and that it was actually a device used to spy on the Soviet Union. National Enquirer decided to report on the same story once again in 1978. Theories began circulating that the government had been covering up the truth all along, and that the wreckage truly was an alien spacecraft. One person claimed to have seen a blazing aircraft right before the crash, while others claim they saw it break and scatter over a large area. There were also accounts of people witnessing alien bodies coming from the wreckage. One of the most famous accounts came from a mortician named Glenn Dennis. According to Dennis, a nurse at the Roswell Army Field Base witnessed doctors examining 3 creatures that resembled humans but had long, thin arms and very large, bald heads. Dennis reported that there were requests for child-sized caskets around the same time. Due to witness accounts like this and the fact that the government changed their story several times, the Roswell incident is still one of the most famous UFO incidents. As mentioned, one of the things the official says is that the Roswell incident was not a UFO crash, but rather that of a weather balloon. However, understandably, people have spoken out about this, saying that top officials at the United States military would know the difference between a weather balloon and a UFO. Also, a type of mylar foil would have been used on this balloon, and those who were at the crash site reported that the material they were picking up was much different, not only in look but also in feel and how it reacted when they picked it up, with many of those who helped clean up the area saying that the material was a type of memory metal. The UFO Hunters team interviewed L. Falford, who was at the site and helped clean up the crash, and also at the time was one of the last surviving people who was actually at the crash site. L said the material they picked up was lightweight and was able to return to its original form. The UFO Hunters team laid out several materials, some of which included everyday foil and also mylafoil. However, when Earl picked this up, he said it didn't match what he found at the crash site, and went on to note that it was too heavy. He said that the material he picked up at the site was pretty much weightless, and that no matter how much he tried to tear it up or scrunch it up, it would always return to its original shape, saying that he'd never felt a material like it before. The team then, with Earl's knowledge, managed to recreate a material based on what he described. And when he picked it up, he described it as being a closed mange. He said the following when he picked up the material. "This one feels more like the material. We could squeeze it and it would pop right back. The thickness and weight is similar. It makes chills run down my back." The material they had created was from acetate, but as the team pointed out, this type of material was not used in Project Mogul balloons. Only acetate tape was used, which bears no resemblance to the type of material that was being picked up on that day. Earl only spoke about this at the end of his life, with his wife Mary Fulford saying the following, Earl felt like he was out of prison. He felt like he'd been held for years in a vacuum and was finally released. It was grained. The last 2 years of his life he was in his glory because he was able to speak up. It seems that the story of Roswell is one that's shrouded in mystery. There's so many questions that can be asked about this interesting case. Why did the military say they'd captured a UFO? Was this the truth, or were they testing the reaction of the masses? Did they panic when they realized how people reacted? Or was this part of a massive test to see how people would react to the news that the government has in its possession a downed UFO? And what about those who were on the ground that day and say that what they were picking up was not part of any man-made objects they were aware of? Interestingly, many of these reports match other eyewitnesses who've been at sites where UFOs have gone down, saying that similar strange metals have been found around the site, and again, when they pick these up, they seem to be extremely lightweight and able to bend, but then, when you let go, they go back to their original shape. It's these reports and encounters that have caused some to question what actually happened that day. And as Earl was one of the last surviving people who was actually at the site, it seems that what happened to Roswell will be lost to history. So what do you guys make of the accounts of Elf Ulford? Do you believe that a UFO did make contact with the ground that day? And also, what do you make of the materials he was describing, and how this doesn't match up with any other materials that was being used at the time? Perhaps one of the most interesting questions you can ask someone is, do you believe in aliens? Between the mainstream media focusing more and more on alien sightings and NASA's ongoing search for life on other planets, believing in aliens is no longer considered ridiculous or taboo. Many of us have seen what we believe to be UFOs or aliens, and some even believe they've been abducted. We're now taking to social media to share our stories. But when these bizarre tales come from someone in the spotlight, the stories are all the more interesting. Post Malone, an American rapper, reportedly has seen UFOs throughout his lifetime. In an interview with Joe Rogan, the pair discuss a whole host of topics, one of these being Post Malone's alien and UFO sightings and experiences. Post Malone first believed he spotted a UFO at age 16, when he was staying in upstate New York with his aunt. His experience was seeing a continuous light that suddenly shot off into the distance. Malone stated it was just a light that stayed there and then goes off. Malone followed up by sharing some of the more recent encounters he had in California and Utah. He described having seen a classic force field as a dome in a circular shape. He goes on to explain that in New York, both he and his cousin saw the mysterious light, and for other people saw the domed, classic force field. If what Malone truly did witness was a force field expand and retreat, then we should all keep our eyes peeled for the stereotypical design straight from our comic books, cartoons, and sci-fi shows. Joe Rogan, being a skeptic, dismisses Malone's claims to there being a spike in UFO, alien, and general extraterrestrial sightings. He points out that the more these topics are talked about, the more people inaccurately see UFOs, hallucinate, or even just outright lie about encounters, abductions, and sightings. Post Malone's alleged encounter with the strange light is a relatively common comment in reference to UFO sightings. Are people copying what's already been said, or are genuine sightings being consistently and accurately reported? Other reports of strange lights include sudden, bright flashes or with a story shockingly similar to Malone's. So many people providing similar accounts. Should we be so quick to dismiss these sightings? A bold flash of light or a rapidly moving one could be signs of alternate life forms after all. With the unreliable human memory and how easily we can be influenced into thinking we've seen the same things as others, how seriously should we consider these reports? Robbie Williams. Take that member Robbie Williams is notorious for his passion and interest in the extraterrestrial, so we shouldn't be particularly surprised to hear he's had some first-hand experiences. One example he's spoken about is a peculiar occurrence after having written the song Arizona. The song's lyrics detail in on an alien abduction, the opening lines reading, "Visitors, engineering, all we need is a clearing." Perhaps it was an odd coincidence that aliens happened to be the subject matter. Or maybe it was no twist of fate at all, but Williams claimed to have been visited by aliens after having finished writing the song. He stated, "I had just finished writing a song called Arizona, which is all about alien abductions, when there was this glow. It was magic." Williams also claimed to have been within touching distance of a UFO, with it flying directly above him. He insists that he was sober during this experience, though that specification certainly throws some doubt onto the credibility of other claims both he and others have reported. From a young age, Williams has had high exposure to the supernatural and the extraterrestrial. His mother would read tarot cards and have shelves full of books on the unknown and peculiar, from witches to demons to aliens. Robbie Williams suggested that his interest stems from having often been afraid at night, and so his fascination with the unknown is rooted in finding answers. He aims to understand his fears. Robbie Williams had expressed interest in actively searching for alien life numerous times, saying things such as, he planned to surf on jet skis to find UFOs he believed landed in the sea. Though it wasn't until 2008 that we realized quite how sincere this wish was. Robbie Williams and John Ronson took to the Nevada desert, attending the UFO conference, to hear alien abductees speak about their experiences. This included a surgeon, Dr. Lear, who has reportedly removed metal implants from abductees and discovered the implants weren't of earthly metal. This trip kept Williams out of the public eye for a short while, or at least kept his music out of the public eye. But his openness about his supernatural beliefs can be deemed rather rare for such a high-profile celebrity. When asked as to why he thinks all UFO sightings are so vague and ambiguous, he says, "We see them in mysterious ways because they make mistakes. Aliens don't want to be seen. They aren't seen, except for occasional mishaps, which makes UFO sightings rare and unusual." Williams actively wants to believe, and so hasn't been interested in hearing debunking or skepticism. Further evidence of his fascination with the extraterrestrial are his tattoos. On the back of his neck, the pop star has the Eye of Horus, an Egyptian symbol. It represents the cosmos and is a symbol of protection from evil forces. Director of Extraterrestrial Research Michael C. Luckman says there are clear links between the Egyptians and alien life forms, and that Robbie Williams' tattoos signify to them that he is prepared for an encounter. The links between ancient Egypt and the extraterrestrial are far from new. For years, conspiracy theorists have believed the pyramids to have been built by aliens. Could Williams' tattoos suggest his belief in the Egypt and alien link to? Perhaps Williams' most recent involvement in alien discussions and events was the 2018 documentary Hunt for Skinwalker, a documentary that detailed the sightings and activities of UFOs on a remote ranch in Utah. Essentially, this documentary was an anonymous unveiling as to the millions of dollars funding alien research. Williams speaks of this documentary about buying a £7 million mansion in Compton Bassett, Wiltshire, due to it being known for its crop circles. Sure enough, there were plenty of crop circles to satisfy Williams. Robbie Williams has a whole host of alien tales and anecdotes, a true testament that if you seek out answers, you're sure to find some, even if it's just more pieces of the ever-growing puzzle. Fran Drescher believes she's been abducted by aliens. In an interview with the Huffington Post, she describes how her and her ex-husband, Peter Mark Jacobson, have had matching experiences driving on a road with their fathers when they encountered alien life. Drescher believes the similarities between her own and her ex-husband's experiences means they may have been programmed to meet one another. The actress describes her experiences simply as having been abducted and getting a chip implanted in her hand, an occurrence referred to simply as alien implants. Her and Peter Mark Jacobson allegedly both share a scar on the same hand, in the same spot. Fran insists this is where the chip is, whereas Jacobson remains unconvinced, stating the scar is likely from an accident. She simply stated that's what the aliens programmed us to think. Although Drescher hasn't described the feelings and experiences in detail, many people report hazed memories, as though their memory had been wiped, but small bits of the event were still left behind. Another common occurrence reported by many abductees is a loss of time, having missed hours or days for what they perceive to be a mere seconds. Lots of abductees have had repeat experiences. So perhaps we can expect these aliens to return for Fran Drescher in a few years? People have suggested this is purely a joke. After all, she is a comedy actress. Do you think she genuinely believes she was abducted? Do you think she's taunting the avid believers among us? With so many people talking about aliens and the possibility of alternate intergalactic life, it's unsurprising to see an increase in UFO sightings. When these accounts come from the general public, it can be hard to gauge their credibility, as we're unfamiliar with these individuals. For celebrities in the public eye, however, their reputation is on the line. This means their stories are that much more engaging. Whether it's mysterious light actively seeking aliens or having been unwillingly abducted, these three celebrities have certainly seen their fair share of the extraterrestrial activity. Do you believe their stories? Do you think they believe their own? It's easy to dismiss the reports and accounts we hear when we haven't experienced them firsthand. So perhaps we'll never know until we see them ourselves. So what do you make of these celebrities who have experienced extraterrestrial encounters? Paranormal is a subject that interests many people. Many of us are interested in the unknown, with some even having experienced it themselves. It's these experiences that's led some to investigate the subject, causing them to find a variety of answers for what happened to them. There are those that believe that we share the planet with paranormal entities, and every so often they make themselves known. Science, however, tells us that ghosts don't exist and it's actually our brains playing tricks on us. They go into detail that many things can happen to the brain that causes us to see ghosts, and some of these examples can be attributed to us being tired, our brain identifying objects in the dark, or our senses being heightened after watching a horror movie, and therefore we are more alert about what's going on around us. Paranormal researchers and those that have seen and say that the topic should be taken seriously and investigated. Other theories have been put forward to try and explain what we're seeing. For example, some note that humans' visual spectrum is ingrained, and that we can only see a certain amount of things, while certain animals have a much wider spectrum. Snakes, for example, are able to see in infrared vision. Some suggest that ghosts are beings that exist in a spectrum not picked up by the human eye. And this is why sometimes motion detectors pick up on paranormal beings. Researchers have also said that a variety of different places can be haunted, with some of the most common places being that of graveyards, old buildings and houses where something bad has happened. However, one place you wouldn't expect to be haunted is that of ships and even the ocean. A man was working on an old boat when he took a mysterious photograph. Upon reviewing it, he discovered he'd accidentally captured something in the background. The image first started to make the rounds online back in August of 2014, with the eyewitness saying the following about the image. As I said in a previous post, I work at sea. Last month, we came into a dry dock to carry out refit and repairs. Dry dock is when a ship is brought into a lock, the gates closed and all the water pumped out, leaving the ships high and dry on the blocks, thus allowing repairs and inspections on the underside of the hull. Next to us was an old military frigate being broken down for scram. She had arrived around 2 weeks prior to us. Once the frigate was on the blocks and all dry, all the crew left the old girl to her veins. A sad sight, but that's how these things go. Once all the sensitive stuff had been removed, the dock workers were free to go on. The dock foreman John went on board first with a camera to take pictures of work areas. All in all, he took a couple hundred. This was one of them. He later sent all of the photographs to his boss, who upon seeing this one called John straight away asking the following. Who is the guy with the axe, the edge of the camera flash? At the time John was confused as he never saw anyone while on the ship. The area where this photograph was taken was in a cross alley deep inside the ship. He was walking around with a torch and a camera, and when he'd go to take a photograph, he would turn off the torch, leaving him in total darkness. After this, he would turn the torch back on and be on his way. Because of it being a military ship, the police were soon contacted. The police turned up and carried out their own investigation. However, they noted that they didn't find any trace of anyone being on the ship. It's also interesting to note that there was only one way on and off the ship, and this was by a gameway covered by CCTV. It was very unlikely that someone would jump off the side of the ship as it was a 25-meter drop. You couldn't jump over without being seriously injured. No one was seen to leave the ship after John had taken this. If you zoom in on the image, you can make out what appears to be a person. The witness went on to say the following: "I am a skeptic. Maybe it's a trick of the flash reflecting off something. But if you really zoom in, you can make out the face, ear, collar of the jacket and the axe. And before anyone asks, I'm not going to name the ship or where she is, as I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to have a picture of the innards of a military ship. This gave me serious goosebumps. Needless to say, I didn't go back on board for a loan. Some people gave their opinion on what they thought the being could be. This caused some to suggest that something dark took place in the region, and now that event has left an imprint that gets played over and over. Other examples of residual haunting include that of something making banging noises or turning on the same light over and over. Although this may sound creepy, residual haunting is actually one of the better hauntings to experience. According to paranormal researchers, these entities will let you know that they're there, but they'll usually stay out of your way. There's also a dark entity that's allegedly been plaguing the human race since recorded history, and this entity goes by many different names. For many years, a number of people all around the world have reported waking up at night and seeing a mysterious shadowy figure, and some suggested that the being in this photograph is a shadow figure. The shadowy figure has over time become famous, leading onto it to be given a variety of different names, some of which include the Shadow Man, the Hat Man, and the Shadow Person. The phenomenon has gained widespread popularity, and a number of documentaries have been made on the subject, trying to get to the bottom of what people are experiencing. However, it seems that the more the subject is looked into, the more questions are put forward. A dedicated blog known as the Hat Man Project has also been launched where people share their experiences with the Hat Man. The history of the Hat Man phenomenon goes way back in time, and different written records of the Hat Man have been found. In fact, some evidence of the Hat Man-like entity have been found in scriptures of previous civilizations as well, showcasing that whatever this thing is, it's been plaguing humanity for a long time. So what do you guys make of this photograph? And do you think it's a paranormal being? NASA does a great job at scanning the cosmos for near-Earth objects. These are celestial bodies that could pose a threat to our planet. It's important for NASA to conduct these tests, as they show us what sort of flight path these objects are on, and if they pose any threat to our planet. One interesting thing to note, though, is that the majority of these asteroids don't get picked up on until the last minute, meaning that if they're on a collision course, we don't have a lot of time to. Asteroid 2020 PM7 is one example of this, as this asteroid was only discovered this year and it's been placed in the category of a near-Earth object. The asteroid is currently being tracked by a team of scientists. As they say, it will be visible in the night sky tonight, and is traveling at around 18,500 miles per hour. Scientists have created a scenario of what would happen if an asteroid of this size was to make contact with our planet. And they say if this was to happen, it would easily destroy several towns and could even go on to trigger several natural disasters. It's surprising because you wouldn't expect an object that's so small to be able to cause so much damage. This is why researchers have said that asteroids that are several miles in diameter need to be monitored carefully, as something of this size could potentially wipe out nearly all life on this planet. NASA said the following in a statement: near-Earth objects are comets and asteroids that have been nudged by the gravitational attraction of nearby planets, which allow them to enter the Earth's neighborhood. Comets originally formed in the cold outer planetary system, while most of the rocky asteroids formed in the warmer inner solar system between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. The scientific interest in comets and asteroids is due largely to their status, as the relatively unchanged remnants debris from the solar system formation process some 4.6 billion years ago. The giant outer planets Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune formed from an agglomeration of billions of comets, and the leftover bits and pieces from this formation process are the comets we see today. Likewise, today's asteroids are the bits and pieces left over from the initial agglomeration of the inner planets that include Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. As the primitive leftover building blocks of the solar system formation process, comets and asteroids offer clues to the chemical mixture from which the planets formed some 4.6 billion years ago. If we wish to know the composition of the mixture from which the planets formed, then we must determine the chemical constituents of the leftover debris from this formation process. The comets and asteroids. As of right now, it's looking like Earth is safe from many of these celestial bodies. Regardless, although many of these asteroids are still millions of miles away from us, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration has labeled these space rocks as being potentially hazardous. This comes down to the fact that at some point in the future this could pose a threat to Earth, meaning it's been added to the long list of other asteroids that will need to be monitored in the future. What's scary though is NASA have said that currently we wouldn't be able to stop the majority of asteroids that come close to our planet. But they are working on robotic rovers that would be able to nudge the asteroids in a different direction. Tests have been mapped out, and it's shown researchers that this would be one of the best ways to stop an asteroid from colliding with our planet. Hopefully, though, this day doesn't come anytime soon. It's not just asteroids that we need to be careful of. Solar storms also need to be monitored. Solar storms in the Earth's upper atmosphere are triggered by massive amounts of energy from the sun. If one of these storms is particularly powerful, it will take out entire power networks across the planet. What's worrying about this is that researchers have said we're not ready for an event like this, and that it would cause chaos. Experts estimate that if a large enough solar storm was to strike our planet, it would cause over 2.3 trillion pounds or $3 trillion in damage. Researchers have said that the sun produced one of its most powerful flares back in 2017. This told them that the sun was waking up and being more active. When the sun throws out these flares, they can have effects on satellites and other pieces of equipment. Sunspots can be seen as darker areas that appear on the surface of the sun. Researchers have said that going back a while ago, a solar flare came from one of these spots. Although this one wasn't massive, the team studying the spot said it sent out harmful radiation into the atmosphere. The researchers labeled this as an M-class, which in terms of solar flares is in the middle when it comes to solar strength. The team did say, though, this could be a sign that the sun is becoming more active and that more powerful solar flares could be coming our way. The sun grows through cycles, and it's important that scientists understand when the sun is throwing up these flares, as they can affect our communications. As mentioned, if a powerful solar flare was to hit our planet, it would wipe out all of our power networks. As of right now, scientists have said they're keeping a close eye on the sun. Although these types of announcements are worrying, it's important to note that scientists are always running tests. However, even they've noted that sometimes these discoveries can surprise them. It's for this reason that various tests are carried out. Even when they're sure it will miss us, scientists will always carry out more tests to ensure these celestial bodies are not on a collision course. But in some cases, the researchers don't even know they're there. For example, going back in 2018, we saw more than 91 Nemes hits of different asteroids of all sizes passing by our fragile blue planet. The worrying thing is, out of these 91 asteroids that passed by us, only 30 of these asteroids were seen coming prior to their passing, and only 2 of those were discovered 1 year ahead of the Nemes event. This means that for more than 89 of the asteroids nearly striking the Earth in 2018, only 2 of them could have been prevented with our current technology, showcasing just how threatening these large celestial bodies can be. So what do you make of these interesting discoveries? And do you think that one of these large asteroids will strike our planet in the future? One of the greatest inventors to have lived was that of Nikola Tesla. At the time, his unique mind wasn't appreciated, and in some cases people even tried to brand him as a mystic and someone who didn't know what he was talking about. However, these comments didn't stop him, and Nikola Tesla wasn't one to shy away from electricity and being able to harness it. One of his famous quotes was the following: "I have worked out a dynamic theory of gravity in all details and hope to give this to the world very soon." Nikola Tesla has impacted your life in one way or another. For example, electricity, radar, microwaves, the radio, drones, and many other things. All these came from the great mind that was Nikola Tesla. And these include things like papers and documents that were collected shortly after Nikola Tesla passed away. For many years now, theories have been floating around as to why Tesla's work was collected by the government. Some have said that Tesla's work wasn't important and wouldn't have impacted us, and that the ideas and inventions he was working on didn't work or were just made up. So if this was the case, why then did the United States government quickly swoop in and collect his work shortly after he'd passed away? Tesla's work obviously caught the attention of the FBI's. They wanted to come through what he'd been working on. One of their reasons for doing this was to ensure that any of his work didn't get into the wrong hands. For this reason, they decided it would be best if Tesla's documents remained in the property of the Office of Alien Property Custodian. This was, however, until the documents and other pieces of Tesla's work mysteriously disappeared after the war. Interestingly enough, discussion had been created that the public was aware of some of these alleged inventions, and it even caused citizens to question Director J. Edgar Hoover about what Tesla was working on. It's some of these excerpts, though, that caused many people to question why the government would look into this, and not only that, but also keep it a secret. These are some excerpts from the official FBI documents that got released. This letter will not reach you in time to sight flying saucers over New York on the night of June 13th from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. But there will again be full-scale operations of flying saucers over all American areas on July 1st. This will be in 3 phases as follows. New York areas July 1st, 9 a.m. Washington, D.C. areas 9:25 a.m. General North American areas after 9:25 a.m. Central American errors 9:30 a.m. South American errors 9:35 a.m. Second phases same errors as above beginning at 12 midday July 1st. Third phase full-scale operations over all American errors beginning at 7 p.m. on the evening of July 1st. The above information has been supplied by George King, editor of Cosmic Voice 88, The Drive Mansions, Fulham Road in London. Also, please note that George King has also published back issues of Cosmic Voice in 1 volume. This is beyond doubt the finest source of messages that we know of. George King is considered the best telepathic contacts that the space people have. Although George Fantasso is the finest we have in America, Margaret Storm has been assigned to certain work with the space people. As follows, she is writing a book, a story of the life of Nikola Tesla, and the part his inventions will play in the new age. Much of the data for this book has been supplied to Mrs. Storm through transcripts received on the Tesla set, a radiotype machine invented by Tesla in 1938 for interplanetary communication. Tesla died in 1943, and his engineers did not build the Tesla set until after his death. It was placed in operation in 1950, and since that time the Tesla engineers have been in close touch with space gems. The space people have visited the Tesla engineers many times, and have told us that Tesla was a Venetian, brought to this planet as a baby in 1856, and left with Mr. and Mrs. Tesla in remote mountain Providence in what is now Yugoslavia. On 26th and 27th of January 1943, an examination was made of the technical papers of Dr. Nikola Tesla, which after his passing had been stored in the Manhattan warehouse in New York City. This examination was made for the purpose of determining if any ideas of significant value in the present United States war effort could be found among his possessions. Participating in this examination was Mr. John C. Newton, New York Office of the Alien Property Custodian, Dr. Charles of the Washington Office of Scientific Research and Development, and John G. Trump of the Office of Scientific Research and Development of Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The following papers, which were regarded as typical of Nikola Tesla's writings and thoughts in the period of 1925 to 1942, were removed for the purpose of record and listed below in random order in which they were found, together with a brief individual abstract. Exhibit A, Possibilities of Electrostatic Generators. An updated article probably written about 1934 discussing the possibilities as a source of high-voltage DC power of the Van de Graaff of electrostatic belt generator. The article states correctly the electrostatic principle employed in this device, and points out that such generators are not suitable for commercial, high-powered applications, though of undoubted scientific value. Testor's wireless tower erected in 1902 on Long Island is stated in this memorandum to have charged to 30 million volts. Exhibit B, reactive force of glycerin and dynamite. An updated memorandum involving some calculations of the explosive power of certain compounds, and then deviating to a discussion of the possibility of transmitting power by mechanical vibrations along the Earth's crust. Exhibit C, process of degasifying, refining, and purifying metals. A 40-page memorandum probably written around 1930 detailing with the above subject, and proposing new theories of capillarity and surface tension. These correspondence indicated these had been submitted to various industry companies. Exhibit D, replying to Ant.org regarding the generation of high voltage and acceleration of charged particles. This document dated 8th of November 1935 answers questions raised by Soviet engineers and scientists regarding Tesla's proposal array. From this answer is deduced that the proposal concerned the generators of high voltage by electrostatic means. These means consisted of a high-voltage terminal, presumably supported on an isolating column and charged by a gaseous charge conveying medium passing between ground and terminal. The ideas contained in this memorandum are fairly similar to the bulk conveyor electrostatic generator proposed by Van de Graaff and do not appear to offer any unusual features. End quote. There are some, however, that believe these documents are not telling us everything and that there's a possibility some of Tesla's work and inventions are being held back. It's interesting because during Tesla's life, he claimed to have contacted and heard voices through transmitters. Tesla wrote extensively in his notes that when he made the first radio, capable of receiving and broadcasting his signal, as soon as he turned on the device, he could already hear another person's voice on the other side. He said he could hear a voice calling out his name, saying Tesla 123. Some have suggested that what he was hearing may have been the space people. So what do you guys make of these claims? And what do you think of Nikola Tesla?